No public comments, I assume, tonight?
No
No,
public
ma'am.
comments.
We have review and acceptance of the 2023 audit as presented by ABIP.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here this evening. We did go over in detail with your audit committee last week. I can't remember where it was. And we went over it in detail, but so I'm going to give you a high-level review. But if you have any questions while we're going through it, just let me know and I'll stop and hope to answer those questions. So I'm going to start on page 1 of the document. It is our audit opinion. It is what we call an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that you can get from your auditor. And it basically means that we did not make any modifications to your financial statements, and they are presented in accordance with generally accepted audit accounting principles.
I'm sorry, can I stop you for just 1
Sure.
minute? Can I pass those out real quick? Because
Sure.
when it got scanned, it didn't scan the page number, so it's gonna be kind of hard to follow along.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to follow along on there.
Sure. Where's the page numbers?
The printer we have kind of shoved papers in a bit crooked.
Oh,
So
see,
it cut off the bottom of
we
the
needed
page.
those.
Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what page was it?
Again, it was on page 1. It's the very first paragraph, and it goes on for 3 pages. But to summarize, it is an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that you can get. And we call it an unmodified opinion. Basically, we didn't make any modifications to your financial statements, and they are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. On page 5 is the management discussion and analysis, and there's a lot of words in here, so I like to go to the tables, which begin on page 7, and it shows a comparison from this year to last year, so you can see how the district did. So looking at the current assets, most of that balance in there is your cash balance, and it went from 2.4 to 2.7 million. A lot of that is increase in your water sales. You had a increase in the water sales that you had for your customers this year. Also, you had an increase in investment income. So you did increase your cash somewhat. Restricted assets, pretty much the same as last year. That's related to your restricted dollars that you need for capital improvements and also for your bond reserve. Capital assets went up this year. You had some wells and some water lines and also the storage tank, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Your non-current liabilities are your bond payable. Again, you haven't issued any new bonds, so it's gone down just because you're making your bond payments each year. We turn over to page 8. This is a comparison of your revenues and expenditures from 2023 to 2022. And there you can see that your water sales increased, your connection fees also increased, and then your interest income increased. The decrease in the grant income, which is the last revenue source, were your ARPA funds that you had last year, that we no longer have those dollars. Total expenses, pretty consistent from last year. The big changes are you're a little more in salaries and a little more in your depreciation expense. But still, you ended up with a nice change in your net position of a little over $1 million. Any questions? Page 9, you can see your capital assets, detail of your capital assets. The big change there is you had a lot in construction in progress last year. That all got moved into your plant and distribution system. Again, the storage tank was about 2.5 million. And then also the water lines and some of the pumps got moved from construction in progress into your distribution system. On page 10 is Bruce's manuscript. he writes about what the future projects and whatnot and the budget for next year, and what the district has been working on throughout the year. Did you want to say anything else about
No,
it?
it's always an interesting on that because we write this after we've already begun the year, but we have to go back and write it as if we haven't started the year. So it's always an interesting challenge to do this, but it's always open to suggestions if anybody feels the need to add anything on that. It's just to sort of high-level economic factors that affect the district.
If we go to page 13, this is just more detailed than the tables we were just looking at. I don't have anything additional to add to that. On page 14 is the important number on there is the very bottom unrestricted net position. It increased from 2 million last year to almost 3 million this year. You have 10 months of operating expenses in that almost 3 million. Last year you had 9 months of operating expenses. It's a very healthy fund balance. We recommend anywhere between 4 and 6 months.
Right.
And you have just a little bit more than that.
Well, that helps us with our bond ratings
Yes.
and everything else. Shows us our financials are strong.
Absolutely. Again, you can see the change in net position on page 15 was $1 million this year, 1.6 last year. Some of that was the ARPA funds. On page 19, and I'm not going to go through every note in the financials, but the notes contain some more additional information to the numbers that are in the front of the report. I just want to highlight a few things. On page 23, there's a note on your cash and cash equivalents. As part of our audit, we are required to review your compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act. And one of the requirements is that your deposits are fully collateralized during the year. So we do look at that as part of your compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act, and you were entirely covered throughout the year with FDIC coverage and also approved pledged securities that are in the district's name.
We watched that
I know.
close.
I think one time you were just a little bit underpledged.
We get a little close, but Lauren is in contact with the bank to make sure the securities are there.
Yep.
Every time before we move those monies around.
See, they've said they guarantee that we're always pledged in the case we go over, but I always want to make sure when I know we're getting there too, and just be sure.
On page 31, at the very top, I just wanted to make note that you did pay off your notes on your water rights this year. So those are gone. Your note payable, no longer have to make those payments. On page 34 is information on your retirement plan, which is TCDRS. It's about 10 pages long. I'm not going to go over any of that actuary information unless you would like to. I did want to note that your pension liability did increase this year from $41,000 to $90,000, but I don't believe that's a concern because the TCDRS and their actuaries, they're not going to let it go too low. They're going to increase your contributions to make you stay.
But aren't we overall about 90% funded?
That is, or is that?
That's just because it's a question that's come up from time to time.
Sure, I know, I understand. You are 90.2%
Just a little over 90% funded, which is pretty healthy for
right.
some of those government funds, TCRSs and TMRSs.
So, and you can always, if you get worried about it, you can make contributions, but I don't
And we
suggest.
talked about that before,
Yeah,
no,
we did.
I don't really suggest it because they're gonna keep you on target.
Right, yeah, we definitely did.
So the next schedule I was gonna talk to you is on page 53. It is your budget to actual schedule. So you can see your total actual for revenues was 3.7 million, we budgeted 3.2 million, so you had a favorable variance of 481,000. Expenses, you budgeted 2.8, spent 2.5, so another positive variance there. You didn't spend as much as what you budgeted for. So overall, your net position increased by 391,000. So you can't get closer than that on a budget.
Yeah.
The rest of the information in this document is required by TCEQ, so they like to look at all these schedules. I wasn't gonna go over any of them unless you wanted me to. But again, it's all,
Unless there's questions. Unless there's questions on it.
no, I don't think we had any
They will send
questions.
this to TCEQ, right? Not you.
No.
I will,
Lauren-
I will send this
Oh,
to
you'll
you.
send it,
Yeah.
okay.
Lauren sends the certification and after the board takes action, it sends it to TCC.
Right.
And then posts it on our website.
The very last page is the affidavit, so once it's approved, Lauren can sign it and someone can notarize it and off it goes to TCEQ.
Okay. Won't you notarize it as well?
We just had that discussion. Because we had somebody, we've always had two different people and I think Lauren's,
Best practice is not to notarize
Okay.
your own signature.
Okay.
Right.
But you have another notary in the office?
Yes, yes, we do.
with that, I'll take any questions that anybody has. I do want to thank Bruce and Lauren for giving us everything we need to do our audit. Everything is always perfect. I appreciate it.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, does anybody want to make a motion? or-
I'll make the motion, we accept the audit.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
She's back.
None? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yes, thank
much.
you very
I
much.
don't really need these back,
Okay,
but you could just throw them out or we'll get you a final
we'll get you
copy.
the final copy, so if you wanted to,
But nothing should change, nothing will change.
no, it's
from
just
these.
clearing the pages, but it's well,
Okay.
we won't have it.
I can collect them.
Okay.
Janitor, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, or
I think I'm gonna, I've been to Van Derek's, I've been to university, I've been a lot of places today. But this is the time of year when we get everybody finalized.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I think I will hang out, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
you.
much.
You be safe going
So
home.
much. Thank you. I will.
Bye-bye.
And I'll get that to you.
Okay,
Thank you,
great,
Janet.
thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Review and acceptance of the minutes of the February 20th board meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes?
Make a motion to accept. I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I
Opposed?
abstain since I was out
Okay,
last month?
Sure.
so Hector will abstain. The motion carries. Review and acceptance of the February 2024 financial reports. Does anyone have questions? I know, you wanna comment on them or,
I
oh
can-
no, this is the old ones, okay.
Yeah, this is February. I can comment briefly. If anybody has any questions to start, I can address those, but, okay. So just looking, current month this year versus last year, total revenue was up, slightly from 333,000 last year to 374 this year. Really no big changes. One item to note, you'll notice under the water lease for EAA, showing $100,000 in revenue. That was our VISPO and
ASR.
An ASR lease money that we get in that first quarter. Otherwise, everything's pretty straightforward. Revenues are up, some from same time last year. Expenses, again, pretty straightforward. They were actually slightly lower than this month last year. Professional fees is a little over the budget for the month. That's just simply because ABIP, we pay a pretty significant chunk of the audit fees upfront, and that was in the first quarter. We'll get a couple of remaining smaller invoices as the year goes on now. Any questions?
I'll make the motion that we approve the, what is it, February's
February.
financials.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Review and action to approve the resolution to readopt the district investment policy.
Jodelle, I'll give you a chance to start with if you wanted to comment on anything.
Well, I mean, it's just the same as last year. We didn't see anything that's changed that we needed to change, so we just went ahead and left it the way that it was.
Correct.
So do we need a motion?
Yeah, so we have a resolution each year to just readopt or, recommend any changes and readopt.
Well, I'll make the motion that we readopt the policy.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Review and action on the landlord-renter payment agreement.
This is a carryover from last board meeting when we tabled it. I'll let Lauren talk about anything she wants to do more with this, but basically, all we're recommending on staff is continue businesses we've been doing. That we have this, and landlords have a choice to either put the renter on it responsible, or they can just keep the account themselves and pay it, and then whatever they do with the renters, they do. We have different ways.
Okay. I know Hector wasn't here last month. Do you want like a little recap of what we talked
Just
about?
the quick executive
Version?
I read, yeah.
Well, the issue is with, in a short, and I'll do a short version, and I'll give it to
Yeah.
Sean. When we have a renter agreement, landlord agreement, okay? The account is in the name of the property owner. That's what
Right.
we have them in.
Yep.
But when a renter comes in, we'll take a payment from anybody, but we won't share with them anything about cost or bill or anything unless they sign our signature on the account. So
Okay.
the landlord signs these agreements that puts the renter on there and makes them responsible for payment of the bill, which we send the renter the bill, we do all of that stuff. But there's a statement on that agreement that says in the event that the renter defaults, then the landlord's responsible.
Right, I think
Well,
that was always the
but
case.
we only notify the landlord when it goes into default,
Right,
after the additional fee. So there was a discussion about short version about how we might be able to do that to try to work different things with landlords that may or may not be stuck with big bills that people move out on and things like that. That's the short version of it.
Okay.
And so our policy, the way it is a landlord has two different ways. Either keep it in their name and pay the bill, which we have some that do that, or we put it in the renter's name. However they want to handle it. But this is one of the, if they put it in the renter's name, it's at risk that the renter's paying it.
That's right, yep. Okay.
So the state of Texas basically says that if you've got a renter in there and they don't pay rent, then you have the option of, you don't have an option. You can't cut their water off. You can't say, I'm going to take it out of your, or it's not in their name, but if it's in my name and the renter isn't paying rent, then I don't have the option to say, turn their water off or put it back in my name, and I can't go there and I can't turn the water off from them even using water. If that makes sense.
Well, the other part of that too, and I will tell you that if the district, and we've been through this with past ones with legal opinion, if the district has knowledge that somebody is in the house using water, we don't get into if they're paying rent or whatever, but if we have knowledge that there's someone there, then we are prohibited from turning that water off
Unless they're not making
until it gets into a default position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, once it gets in a default,
So whether it's a
locked
renter
off.
or an owner, you can turn it off after they don't pay their bill.
That's correct.
Right.
And
that
did
is-
we do that?
But, yes, we do. But we've
We did
had,
it here.
I just want to clarify too, because we've had landowners that say, oh, we have a tenant that's not paying his rent, I want you to cut the water off. We can't, as long as the
Until they go
account's
into
paid.
default.
As long as the account's
Yep.
paid.
Yep.
I just want to make that clear.
But so in the default, in default, I can't go over there with my wrench and turn the
Right.
water
No.
off on
No.
my side. I mean,
Right.
I mean, even though I'm not talking about locking it, I'm
No,
talking
I-
about turning the water off. I
Right.
can't, because they can go and turn it back on. So no matter what, I mean, they can go without
Paying rent.
paying rent and go and get their water free. And same thing with electricity, same thing with everything else. But the Medina Electric turned the electric off. My problem is that they left a dog in there,
Okay.
and they were locked out. The water was cut off. I couldn't go in there because, again, the state of Texas or a judge said you can't go in there for 6 days, and then the constable made it, after the 6 days was up, they were still in there. Constable came back and said, you can't move, you can't even go on the property for 10 more days. So our hands are tied behind our landlords, our hands are tied behind our back. You can't go in there. But meanwhile, you know there's a dog in there without water, drinking out of the toilet. So you call animal control can't do anything. So it's just a big old vicious circle that keeps going round and round and round and round, and you just, what do? I was bringing water, sneaking in there at night, going into the house to give the dog water. It's not me, my dog, and the dog's tearing everything up. I want to shoot it. I want to take it, I want to let it out and just let it go outside the property
And then you
and then shoot it as a coyote. But I didn't, because, I don't think it would be right to kill a dog because it's not his fault.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Yeah.
not gonna solve renter,
No, I know.
landlord
Right.
laws and everything. I think I wanna get this back on track with, the question was, can we not charge, I believe, the $200 fee to reconnect reconnection
Right.
fee was the question. And so I think that,
Sure.
we should keep our policy the way it is. And we've always charged everyone that reconnect fee. There's people that have had their water turned off for various reasons. And, I want to kind of stick to what we can do or talk about and change or
Right.
not change. And so, I mean, if nobody has any other questions or comments,
Well,
Basically leave
in
it
a
as it.
situation like that, he owns the meter per se, the renter is supposed to pay it. when does he get notified that they have not
Yeah.
paid it?
He gets notified when it gets locked off.
Right.
Okay,
So when it gets locked off, just so you know, when it gets locked off, it's already had is it $25?
$25
A
late.
$25 late fee assessed to it, and when it gets locked, there's another $85.
$100.
$100.
$50 trip, $50.
$50 trip,
lock.
$100 to get it back unlocked. So there's, by the time the landlord notifies, and it's in the agreement, by the
Yeah.
time we
Yeah.
notify the landlord, there's an additional $125 on the account.
is there something we can do to notify the landlord when that isn't paid on time, or would it be too cumbersome?
Before you lock it.
Before you lock it?
The way.
So he's got a
And
heads up,
that's
basically.
what I'm asking.
I understand that,
So
I
he-
understand that.
yeah.
If, and I don't know, I would have to talk to Lauren on this because I don't know how many we have, but we send these.
I mean,
we
what
call
if you
them
miss one? You know, what if you miss one
Yeah.
and you don't miss
Yeah.
another, then somebody
Yeah.
thinks they're being special
Right.
Yeah.
treated? I mean,
Right.
I
That's
would
the
say that
challenge.
Just
you could
stay with the
probably put
policy.
their name in the account as the owner and that this is a renter, but
Is there something within our computer that could flag that?
We send
So
out over 200, probably close to 250 late notices, disconnect notices every month.
Well,
yeah.
We end
so
up
can't do this.
disconnecting for non-payment on average probably 15.
Yeah, between 15 and 30.
15 and 30, average cutting off. But so, but think about that.
Yeah.
yeah.
250 letters go
I know.
Yeah, that's a lot.
out
Yeah.
for late fees.
yeah.
But as a landlord, don't you, when you sign the agreement or whatever, don't you require X amount of money? What do they call it?
Deposit.
A deposit?
Yeah.
That's a deposit for the house, but not for the water.
But not for the water?
The
But
only,
it doesn't-
the only recourse is for the owner to always keep that in their name, and then
Yeah.
when they collect the rent,
Yeah.
collect the water bill. You know, the owner would have to pay the water bill every month and then collect that
Yes.
with the rent. That's the only
Right.
way to avoid this.
And we have a lot of landowners that do that.
Yeah.
There's
So
some,
that's-
we have some that have 10, 15 accounts.
Yeah.
And they come every time of the first month, pay
Right.
everything. Then they collect the rent. That way
Right.
it all stays in their name. We give this an opportunity for landlords to put it in the renter's name.
Yeah.
That's their choice. We give them the choice.
I make a motion that we just stay with the policy we have.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? No? Motion carries. Okay. Review and action authorizing the superintendent to spend up to $50,000 to flow test well number 2 at Plant 1 to develop plans to increase our pumping capacity.
That's a long thing to say to authorize us to spend the money because it's not an emergency thing and it's outside our my purchasing authority.
Okay.
When we
Why
have-
is it so high?
Well, because here's the catch. When we had TCQ inspection, one of the things that was addressed, it's not a violation, but once you reach a certain percentage of capacity, you're required to do certain things. So we have to give back to TCQ within 90 days a plan of action
Right.
to increase pumping capacity. The well, in this particular case, because it's working, we can't be without it. So we're pulling it out, we're testing the flow test, or actually pulling it out, putting a camera down it, flow testing it, then putting it back in operation. Then taking that data and developing plans to increase the size of the pump. So there's about a third of this is putting it back in operation. That the last 2 times we did a well, it was a failure.
Yeah, we had.
So
problems.
we pulled them, we did all of this stuff, we did camera, we did test,
Right.
but we were able to wait for a new pump. We can't wait for a new pump in this case, we have to keep in operation, so that's
Okay.
where some of the additional cost is. Yeah, Ronnie and I have talked about it, it's like we're gonna pay twice, but unfortunately, just so you know really quick, this well in 1989 was tested at 1,800 gallon a minute, we have a 700 gallon a minute pump in it. So,
So,
and to keep in mind, to do a well like this, well over $1 million, and we're trying to do it as economically as we can to increase our capacities.
so how do you, is it just efficiency or is it just, why does a well drop that much within time?
What do you mean as far as?
It didn't drop.
Okay, it did drop.
Yeah, it
The district,
Well, wait,
okay,
it said,
hang on. It was tested, flow tested when it was brand new at 1,800 gallons.
Right.
And it even peaked at 2,900. The district made a budget decision to put a smaller pump in.
oh, okay, all right, I missed.
Just
Yeah.
like the one we did at Plant 5.
So it's the
they
700
made a
gallon
bud-
per minute
Right,
pump.
it was a budget
Ah,
decision.
Okay, I understand now.
So it bought us 25 years.
All right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now we're at the point that we need to go back with a bigger pump
Okay.
to get us another 10 to 15 years of capacity.
Is it a submersible pump that's in there?
No, it's a vertical turbine, but the pump is set at 450 feet below ground.
God.
So it takes a while to pull it out. They put another pump in and flow test it. Really, we're at the canal right there, about 4 hours to make sure what they can flow through it. And then they'll put it back in operations.
Okay.
Okay.
So what we need, because it's not an emergency and it's outside my authority, so I'm asking for the board's authorization to spend that money.
And basically, we don't really have a choice to stay in line with TCEQ.
We could go in blind and put a bigger pump, but there's no guarantee we'll be able to pump that.
So that.
So yes, this is to confirm we're spending good money after this.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we give you authorization to spend up to 50K for plant 1, well number 2.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Okay. Staff reports.
Yes, ma'am. The development updates, all I wanted to give you an update on that big commercial development that's west of Castroville.
Oh,
Yeah. As of last month, we billed them for a little over 3.1 million gallons, almost 10 acre feet. And they're using the water at that rate just for their site work. We're gonna get a good reading tomorrow and kind of try to meet with those folks to try to tell them, I've already told them a couple times, when you run out of water based on what you went out and got to lease to us 25 acre feet, then we're gonna shut you off, no matter where you're at in your project, unless you get us more water.
Right,
And they're pretty close to that point. I mean, we're not gonna shut them off,
yeah.
but we have to make sure, and they understand it,
And how close is that? Like,
within a few weeks.
okay,
But the last time we told them, they were able to acquire some water pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like I said, the construction, they're leasing water. I told them, really, the guys, you need to buy it, but the owners of the project says, no, that's on the contractor right now. We'll figure out the final amount and we'll settle up with you. But the contractors have to lease enough water to meet that. It's kind of, people don't fully understand, because the project they have in Rio Medina was on farmland, irrigated farmland, so there's water rights with the land. There's no
so they
water
had
rights.
it.
Yeah.
This one
Yeah.
doesn't.
This one doesn't have it.
Right.
So we're back and forth on that. I just want to give you a heads up on that. CCN update real quick. As I told you last month, our CCN, which that's a new map over there, the colored one on the wall, was approved and final. But we have this other one that we're not a party of, but the one we had the median settlement with Mr. Maples. It came down to final approval and the administrative law judge said, wait a minute. East Medina needs to be a party of this. Of course, we're challenging back that no, it was filed in accordance with mediated settlement.
Right.
We're okay, but I just want to let you know, an administrative law judge at least tried to bring us into it. We're trying to stay out of it,
Yeah.
okay?
okay.
Just to let you know. The potential future water supplies, going to talk to you about Yancey, Scooter over at Yancey, and kind of put together, and we're working with him to get all the water purveyors in Medina County together. There was an initial meeting last week at the county to talk about trying to work together for alternative water sources for the future. For example, maybe have our own ASR or something like that. So all the cities, all the water utilities, all met in Hondo to try to talk about some basics on that. we kind of explored it, water was there to talk about possible funding, we had EAA and everything else. One of the things I did talk to Scooter, and I think we're at the point, since everybody kind of seems positive on that, we need to get together some type of an interlocal agreement where we can bring back to our respective boards to make commitments for entities. So as we move forward and maybe look at engineering, so we know what we're looking at cost-wise. Because we're looking down the road in the future as continuing to grow, because EAA or Edwards is, I don't know if you guys know this, but SAWS controls more than half of the water rights out of the EAA. And then, of course, there's a big chunk of steel irrigation. So it's out there, but it's becoming more difficult. And the more difficult it becomes to acquire, the more the price goes up. And the more word gets out of potential changes in prices, the more prices go up again. So we're all in the same boat, so we're just looking at potential future options for the county.
Okay.
And that's it. Okay, right.
Field manager?
Overtime is leveling off, it feels like. We are definitely down from where we started the year at. We had a little spike this last pay period, but it's been somewhat quiet the last few weeks, so hopefully we can keep that going in that direction. We did manage to fill the vacancy we had in the field. He started on the 11th. He seems to be pretty good. We're running him through the paces right now on taking the basic water course and running him with the guys out to the plants and stuff to get an idea of what we do when we go out in the field for that type of thing. Had him on a couple of leaks. He seems excited and involved, so.
That's positive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Young guy, old guy?
mid-30s,
Okay,
somewhere in there.
okay.
Local guy, lives right back here off of Hunter's Lake,
Okay,
so
Deal.
seems to get along with everybody.
good,
Good.
That's important.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I've had him the last 3 days sitting here taking the basic water course, so try and get him his license real quick and get him where we can turn him loose and do some of this stuff and have an understanding of the what and why of everything. And then operations wise, we already covered that and y'all approved that, so
Right.
Okay,
basically just the well at one. Your turn.
Just a quick update on election. So we've got some dates coming up for the election that will open up our applications for ballot. We posted notice today, or this week, that those were coming up, so that'll be next month and into May, so.
am I
And then when
one
is the election?
Election
There
day,
needs to be one?
August 3rd, I believe. is the-
First Saturday in August.
I think that's August 3rd,
August.
I believe so,
And I
yes.
think it's Sean and Roy, if I'm
am I
not
the one
mistaken.
am I one of them that's up?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you,
Okay.
Sean and Roy.
yeah.
All right.
There's two other comments I'd like to add, two other things, they're not on the agenda, but they just came up, well, one just came up and one's not let go. I want to remind everybody about the Rural Water Convention next week. I have tickets for the President of Frankfurt, if anybody wants to go, it's at the Hyatt. And I know we're always talking about,
Yeah.
just come on down, I'll text, Lauren will know what my room is and use valet park and charge you to that room and we'll go from there, because TRWA can take care of that.
When is it?
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
actually, is it Wednesday?
27th, I believe.
Wednesday the 27th.
Next week,
Do you
the
have tickets
27th.
in hand, or
I don't have them in hand, I'll have them there.
you'll have them there?
They're
Okay.
waiting on me.
We had discussed
And
getting
it
those, but-
starts at what time?
5 o'clock is a banquet reception, kind of whatever, and then the actual banquet starts at 6 to 9.
Okay.
69.
And it's a
Wednesday.
fiesta theme, we'll have fiesta dancers and mariachi folks and
We don't have to dress
that.
like Fiesta, do we?
No, and everybody that goes gets a TRWA Fiesta medal.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
I just wanted to plug that in. The other thing, that's a plug. The other thing, I want to give you more of exciting news, but I want to keep it down, but exciting news. You know, we filed for those TRW, Texas Water Development Board projects last year. We filed like 9 projects, $12 million worth of stuff. They came back and said, okay, but reapply to be considered in the next cycle. We got a notice the other day, or I did, and I'm working with them, I did and so did the engineer, that 4 of those projects have been past preliminary looks for water loss projects. So we're in the process of filing additional applications directly related to our water losses. That, so it's not to get overexcited, but it's just we've passed a hurdle.
And that is for us specifically for our water. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
for 4 major projects that we have proposed. So, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, and I'll keep y'all informed in future meetings.
Okay,
That's exciting.
That's good.
excellent.
Good job.
So we're working.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
What time is it? 7:40.
Carries. Meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.